On it, you have to quit.
Okay, so today we're going to continue this conversation on the three levels of the soul. And what I told you we would go into and do a deep dive today into are the four main components that constitute a soul. The four components that a soul is made of. And we said they are ratzon, will, seichel, which is intellect, midot, which is emotion, and ma'aseh, action. So will, intellect, emotion, and action. Will, intellect, emotion, and action. Now, the difference is that on the level of the vegetative soul, what we called the natural soul, all elements, all dimensions, all traits are animated by the desire to secure existence, to make sure the person is physically healthy and developing. When a human being operates on this level of soul, all their capacities are directed towards physical growth, towards physical expansion. All the instincts, all the feelings, all the emotions, all the intellectual capabilities, they're all focused on acquiring more food, on getting more sleep, on securing and sustaining a healthy body, kind of like a tree that bends towards the sunlight to make sure that it's going to receive proper nourishment. That's on the level of the natural or the vegetative soul. Now, we can choose to just live on this level, which means if we're just like the tree bending towards the sunlight, if all of our instincts and feelings and emotions and intellect are focused on making sure that we have enough food, enough sleep, making sure that we're going to the gym, that we're eating healthy, it sounds even like somebody who's taking care of themselves. It doesn't even sound in our society like a bad thing. But it's in Kabbalistic idea, it's just focusing on the natural or the vegetative soul, which is the basic level of the soul. We do have the ability to go a step deeper, to go a step higher. Someone who functions on a deeper dimension of the soul, more than the simple physical growth, also strives to preserve their stature, their status, like an animal, like a lion being the king of the jungle. The instincts, the emotions, the intelligence, they're all garnered to help that person climb the so-called ladder of success. That ladder of success, which is predicated on the social law that whoever has more things and more territory wins. And this is the animal soul. The animal soul wants to acquire things, wants to acquire territory, wants to acquire social status. But there's a third level. Beyond this, we also have the power to operate from a place of our rational soul, making sure that our objectivity, that our desire for inner truth, that our desire for spiritual growth is going to override our basic instinct, that it's going to override our basic urges and our basic lusts. And with the power of the rational soul, we can go beyond our own biological immediacy and mechanical necessity and experience something that we call transcendence. The transcendence of pure self-centeredness, the ability to become sensitized to someone else, sensitized to others, sensitized to the plight of someone else, empathy, compassion, sympathy, and all of the relational feelings, they're manifestations of the soul. There's a part of our soul that allows us to experience more than just us. And that is what we call the rational soul. The rational soul allows us to experience more than ourselves. It allows us to be empathetic. It allows us to be compassionate. It allows us to realize that we are not alone. You see, there's also a good side to it, which means what the rational soul can say to the animal within us is you actually are achieving social status by focusing more on empathy and compassion, because you will feel like you're not alone. Someone who is focusing just on the animal or on the vegetative soul, they're going to feel alone in the world because they're not going to use their compassion or their sympathy to appreciate the feelings of someone else. So I want to kind of, with your permission, go through some of the contention between the various early Torah-grounded philosophers when they discuss the three souls, whether they are connected or they're separate and unrelated. Or possibly others say that they're three manifestations of one singular force. There's so many sources for this if you want to kind of look further, and that's why I think it's important during this deep dive that I give you a little bit more of a holistic approach, because there's a lot of different philosophy when it comes to the soul. There are some of the great Torah philosophers who say that we're talking about three separate, unrelated souls. And others that say that we are one singular force, one singular soul with three manifestations. The Zohar, which is the magnum opus of Kabbalah, and the later Kabbalists speak of the soul as one unit with multiple layers. And on the deepest level, there's only one unity, only one absolute oneness. And the soul, which is rooted in the unity of the Creator, reflects this unity, reflects this oneness. There are even those, actually, who argue in favor of three distinct souls. They maintain that these souls are interconnected, they're powerfully linked, and the soul, in its most pristine state, begins as pure thought and gradually evolves or devolves into the shape, into the form, into the coloring of the human configuration, and eventually enclosing itself within the human body and enlivening it. It's at its most dense, individuated level, the soul is interrelated and interfaced with the more refined parts of the body, like the circulation of the blood. The circulation of the blood, the way the Kuzari explains it, is it vitalizes and it gives life to the human body. And that's why the soul is able to use the blood to kind of invigorate the body. And it's also part of the soul that's considered the physical aspect of the spiritual, which unites with the most spiritual aspect of the physical. It unites with the literal life force of the body, and that's the blood. And that's why the Kuzari and other philosophers as well will talk about this idea of the soul, whether it's in the blood, I'm not sure, but using the blood as the mechanism through which it is able to kind of to be able to circulate. That was the word I was looking for, to circulate the body. But as a whole, the vegetative and the animalistic souls are much like that Yetzer Hara, that evil inclination that we spoke about. It's the self-oriented, it's the survival-based instincts of the ego. It's impulsive, it's impetuous, and it has involuntary behaviors that are byproducts of operating on these levels of consciousness. On the other hand, well thought out, intentional, and deliberate conduct is a reflection of someone who can live and operate on the level of the rational soul. The discerning soul is what galvanizes and enables and empowers the individual to rise above the immediate predicaments and consciously act as they choose. Are we good so far? Questions, comments?
One question type, one question not type, still typing note. So we're slightly behind.
I have a question, Rabbi. It's Cheryl. When you were talking about the blood and the circulation of the blood, does it have any reason of why Jews don't embalm?
Not necessarily, but it's an interesting.
Okay.
It's an interesting connection. Yeah, and the same thing, Julian. Your question I'm going to get to actually soon. So, okay, if we don't have any other questions on this particular topic, I'm going to go into the next step, which I think is really important to understand what we're talking about. The next step in this deep dive is I want to talk about this idea of Surah and Chomer, form and substance. Form and substance is another way to divide the elements of the soul. Substance we define as the actual configuration of the body and its spiritual life force. The energy that enters the body at conception and slowly dissolves until demise. Surah, which is form, is the intellectual, cognitive soul that lives even after the substance of the body no longer exists. So there's a part of our soul that is directly connected to the body. The chomer, the substance, It's the actual physical form of the body. It's the energy of the body. And there's another part of our soul, Surah, form, the form that is above and beyond the body. And it lives beyond the body. So Surah, form, is the level of the soul that offers us the power to elect freely. It's the creative aspect of our personality. It's the rational element of the soul that allows us to become a creator of our own limited perspective and transcend genetics, to transcend environments, to transcend past perspectives in order to be more than just a machine reaching out of mere instinct and habits. Such an important part of our lives. So often we become Freudian, saying that it's my genetics, it's my environment. There's nothing I can do about the way I was raised and where I am. There's nothing I can do. Surah, this form says, no, your soul is greater. You have within you a life force, an animating life force. You don't have to be connected to chomer, to form. Yes, you're right. Your inner child is your chomer. Your inner child is your substance. You're right. If you want to only operate on the soul of your inner child, yes, you're going to have trauma. You're going to have things you have to talk to your psychologist about. But you also have the ability to transcend that. You have the ability to go beyond that. When we live life on this level, we're going to find that our behavior is proactive and not reactive. We're going to feel empowered, knowing that we are the ones who choose life, that we choose to live every day, that it's not the trauma, it's not the challenges of our life that bog us down, but we choose to thrive in our lives because we are connected to a life force that is greater than the energy of the day-to-day. Ultimately, we're not enslaved to what life has to offer, whether it's experienced as good, whether it's experienced as not good, because we have the power to conceptualize, to articulate, to interpret reality however we desire. The narrative of our lives is the choice that we have. We can decide that narrative. We can decide the story of our lives. Intellect, to paraphrase the philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein, lets the fly out of the box. Intellect, our ability to think, to process, affords us the opportunity, the vision to see life from a deeper vantage point. And it's a perspective that's not limited, that's not restricted to the immediate moment. It offers us the openness. It offers us the clarity to sense that there's more to life than what our physical eye encounters, what our physical eye sees. And it's inviting and evoking a deeper, and then maybe even a deeper than that exploration. Alessandra, please.
Sorry, I'm in the car, so I need to, it's more complicated to access. So assuming we have taken for granted, we now know that our soul is infinite.
Mm-hmm.
Was there before, will be there later, may come back again in material form, but yet. So shouldn't be that part of the soul that is our governing body, as opposed to the trauma. I mean, yeah, we all have an upbringing that have an impact on our day-to-day psyche, but once we come to understand that we're more than our experiences, shouldn't we be able to go and source ourselves from the soul?
That would be amazing, wouldn't it be?
So yeah.
Wouldn't that be amazing? I mean, the answer that I have to you is yes. There's yes. So why we start living why we continue after knowing this and having this choice, why we continue to live our life based on instinct or based on whatever other things we're going to decide to live by is beyond me. But somehow people still choose, and I say choose very freely because it's a passive choice, not necessarily an active choice, but people choose to live life based on instinct and based on the whim of the moment and based on being reactive instead of proactive.
Do you think that those life experiences are actually the ones that can make us have the choice to say, sorry, I refuse to be defined by the experiences. This is not who I am. I mean, I think that's what happened with me at some point in my 30s, where I decided that I wasn't the result of my experience, but I was beyond that, and therefore I was choosing to be happy. I would associate it to that. And so I chose to live a happy life, regardless of whoever drives me crazy, whoever does that what or whatever it is. Do I make any sense? Is it presumptuous of me?
I think that it's not presumptuous of you. I think it's an ideal life. I think that it's very possible that at some point, it sounds like in your development, you said your 30s, at some point, you through your life experience realize this, or maybe without being able to kind of pinpoint it the way we're pinpointing it right now, and you've decided to live your life that way, and you continue to live your life that way. Though, yeah. And I also having to live and function vicariously through other people's lives as well, I see that there are people who don't live that way. And so just to give you an example, that often we, and I'll call this mature people, because here we're a group of mature people. We're people who are not living by instinct. We're not living reactively. Obviously, we're making time to have these kinds of conversations. So it means automatically that we're not living reactively. We had to actually plan and be here at a particular time this morning. So that's proof on itself. And then we get into arguments with people who are not living this way, and we get frustrated with them. Well, it's not our place to make choices for them. We can't get frustrated with them because we are more emotionally and intellectually developed than they are. We can have compassion. We can empathize with them. If we can't empathize with them, maybe we can sympathize with them. Even sympathizing, it's not the ideal state, but it's okay. At least knowing that yes, it's their fault, but it's not our place to judge their faults. Yes, it could be that it's not the ideal state, and let's say they're our friends, and it's not the ideal state for our friend to be in, and I wish that I can pull my friend out of the mud because I'm a friend and I care about them, and I wish I can pull them out of the mud. Well, guess what? You can't make that choice for them. You can make the choice for yourself. You can pull yourself out of the mud. You can offer to help them. But if they want to roll around like a pig in the mud, because it's warm and cozy in the mud, then it's their choice. Whether or not they really understand the metaphor of our conversation or not, we can't be hungrier than them for their change. We can't want their change more than they want it themselves. If they want to change as a friend, we can help lift them out of the mud. But they have to want it. And that desire is a very powerful idea, that they have to want the change in order for us. Yes, we may have answers. Why? Most probably because we've done it ourselves. So we've done the hard work ourselves. So we have answers for them. But it doesn't help if they don't want the help. So for you, walking into their life and saying, well, you know, I know, come on, wake up, smell the coffee. You have any idea what's going on? You can be living a better life. They're going to call you an evangelist. That's not the point of this. And so often we see this in other people's lives and we want to shake them and say, wake up, there's a better way to live. Why are you living based on your instinct? Why are you living based on your social status? Live on a higher level. But we have to understand that there are 3 levels of the soul. And that is the choice that they have to tap into any of those 3. And if they don't want to tap in to a higher consciousness, to a higher level of those 3, we can't make them tap into it. Cheryl, please.
This sounds like a dumb question and maybe it was addressed. So let's just say we even on this screen are all at our own different levels and have raised our awareness to different levels and our spiritual growth at different levels. When we die, which is what this whole class was about, after death or afterlife, does everything even out? Or do we die at our different levels and then grow more on the other side? Or how does that work?
Oh, you're starting to see where this class is headed. Cheryl, you're starting to see the seeds of, remember I told you that this class eventually is about the afterlife, but we can't understand the afterlife until we understand life. So you're starting to see the seeds of where this class is headed in the future. Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Yes, exactly. What? Do we all die even, or we all eventually even out?
We're going to learn on what purgatory really is. It's that process of if we don't do the work in our lifetime, it will be done for us after our lifetime.
Got it.
That's my little preview.
That was my, okay. That was a good short answer. I'll wait for the rest of the deep dive for the rest of the class. Thank you.
That's why this work is so important during our lifetime. Because our soul will eventually beckon for it. So if we don't do the hard work here, it's going to be very painful afterwards. So, and I have so much to say on this. I'm trying not to say too much because I really want to go through it in a linear form. But that is why it's so important to do it here. That's why it's so important to go through the trauma and go through the struggle and go through whatever we have to go through here and get the hard work done. And that's why these experiences happen to us. They're gifts. That friend who is not emotionally mature, that person who we randomly meet, all these experiences, they are there as gifts for us to help us go through the process here. Without those people who sometimes frustrate us or often frustrate us, we don't have the joy. We don't, joy is maybe not the right word. We don't have the privilege of going through the process here. If we lived alone in an island, we wouldn't be able to go through the process here. And that's why when Henoch or Chanoch, when he was living in this world and he said, it's just me and you, God, God said, no, this world is not meant to be meditating on a mountain alone. I take you out of this world. This world is meant to be shared with others. And by sharing it with others, you do open yourself up to some of the issues that I'm sure as I'm talking, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's a privilege to be able to deal with it here in this world. A privilege.
Can you explain why? Why is it a privilege here when it seems so hard? And how do we know that it's harder after our physical body leaves us?
We'll wait to answer the question of how we know it's harder. But what I'll tell you is once you learn it, you'll know it's harder.
Okay.
And we want to get whatever we can done here. Our job.
You just want us to tune in. You want us to tune into the next station.
Come on.
That's
How good are my cliffhangers?
Right. They are very good. Excellent. Okay. Got it.
Come on. Every good show needs to have a cliffhanger.
And we can't binge here like on Netflix.
I
right,
know,
Rabbi?
darn shame.
I would like to.
So somebody eventually, because I send out all the classes by email for those of you who get it, somebody eventually could binge them as we go through it, but it may take like 50 or 60 classes.
That's true. I actually have done that myself a couple times when I get lost. Full disclosure. Could I share a thought about the metaphor?
Sure.
Just reflecting on the past, 10 years, if I could go back that far in my memory, the idea of, a pig in mud. I can identify within my own life. It's like a continuum, right? Meaning I will suddenly see something. I will have a new light of understanding emerge. Then I'll realize I'm in the mud. And so then I'm like, okay, no, pick yourself up, get out and move. And then, a few years later, another life circumstance will reveal more understanding. Then I'll realize, oh, okay, I'm in mud. It's just a different kind of mud. Right. So it doesn't, for me, it doesn't feel like an instantaneous awakening, as more of a continuum of revealing the process. I hope you followed that.
And I think that is such an important part, is that you are not a different soul than you were 10 years ago. You're not a different soul than the person before you went through the process, but you are tapping into another level of your soul. And that's why it may feel different, because it could be before that, you never tapped into that level of the soul. And so all of a sudden you feel like you're, people use these words like you're anew, or you're, I don't want to steal this word because I don't even know what this means, but born again, where you feel like there's a new consciousness. Well, it's because you may be tapping into a part of your soul that you never tapped into before. I'd love to, if there's no other questions, I know Julian is trying to work on his questions, but if there's no other questions, I'd love to go around and take some reflection today, because I know we went through some really, really new and deep ideas. So you can, even in your reflection today, give us a little review of something that to help us all learn. Part of the processing of some of this new information, I'd love to hear within your reflection, kind of a review of what not only resonated with you, but what isn't resonating with you as well. Jill, since you've been very quiet today, we'll start with you.
Good morning. Great class. Perfect timing as usual. So I was thinking, as you were going through the different aspects and the different pieces of the soul. How do we continually or regularly get ourselves or get myself into the rational soul? Because the animal soul is easy. It's really easy to fall down there and then feed that. And yet I feel so much more connected and grounded and all of those words when I feel as though I'm in the rational soul or can see it, or I'm not quite sure. So I think that's my takeaway, is just how do I keep reminding myself, because I'm very good at being, and I think it's the animal soul of taking myself, oh, you're never going to be coming from the rational soul. You don't meditate enough. You don't blah. And that little shift, and it happened in this class. It happens frequently of just that awareness can put me there, which is nice. It doesn't have to be this hard, big thing, and just that awareness. So I want to kind of continue to see that and recognize that. So thank you for the class today. I'll pass it to Fami. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. So this issue, like with like somebody who likes to be in the mud, and so I was thinking about this like lately. Like if we look at go to the original problem, right? Sarah and Ishmael, and so sometimes it is even dangerous to try to argue with someone who have an animal. I mean, if he wants to stick to his animal soul, sometimes even dangerous to deal with him. It's better to cut him off, actually. So this is, if you look at Sarah and Ishmael and Isaac, he was pushing him to kill him, right? So what she have done? I'm sure like she tried to talk to him, but at the end, she told him he must go. That's how I feel we should deal with people like who have this animal instinct. Sometimes you cannot deal with them. You said maybe we can wait for them. I doubt some people will change. It's very hard for them. So it's better to guard ourselves, and the people who just like who just see 1 inch from their nose, I mean, you leave them there, that's it. I mean, this is exactly what's happened. I mean, Sarah, Ishmael, and we have like here a prophet of God, and this is it. I mean, you cannot deal with people who have like bad midot. What can you do? Okay. So now it's the person who taught us something act. So it's Bram. That's up to you.
Sorry, I don't know why it always pops up, Bram. I found this talk actually very positive and optimistic, in that I don't feel that I have to stay mired in the animal soul, and for myself, my feeling is like sometimes I really feel that I'm in the animal soul, with have, bad thoughts or whatever. But fortunately, for the most part, I think the actions are more rational, like I can think the bad thoughts, or, I don't really want to do something, or I do want to do something, but I know it's not correct and I don't have to act on it, right? You can take that step back and slow it down, and at the end of the day, do the right thing. So I find this a very positive talk. Thank you. And I do apologize, but I will do the rational thing and go to the dentist. Have a good morning, everybody. Thank you so much. And I'm
Bye.
going to pass to
Bye,
Celeste.
Alana.
Alana, you want to pass it on? Oh, okay. I guess Cheryl.
Thank you. I don't want to judge this positive or negative class because I got lost in a lot of it. And I don't usually get lost without interjecting and asking a lot of questions. Something you said, Jill, resonated about, oh, I don't meditate enough, or I don't do this enough, or that. And then you said, but in this class, you're more aware. And I think that you become, just from some of my other readings, you're a witness now. You're witnessing what you're living. So you are like a little, you know, like we envision on TV, you know, the soul looking above the body on the operating table, and you're seeing what you're doing and what you're gaining knowledge-wise from this class. So that was just something I wanted to interject. Part of me got lost with, because I'm not familiar with the words Surah and Homer, and I wrote them phonetically, the form and the substance, and I'm not sure which was which, because you kind of went through those quickly. I got the idea about going above and beyond the body, and you said something like this level allows us to become a creator, an animating life force, which to me is the definition. Is it the definition of soul? So I'm not sure which was Surah and Homer and how that related to those other 3 levels of the soul. That's where you kind of lost me a little. So
Can
that
anyone
was,
answer, Cheryl? I'm happy to answer, but can anyone else answer?
The substance is something that ends with physical life, but the form is something that continues.
And which one is Surah and which one is Homer, Julian?
Oh, the only way I could remember it was to try not to remember the Hebrew text.
That's good. That's good. Anyone else who remembers which one is Surah, which one is Homer?
So Surah is form and Homer is substance.
Correct.
okay, so I wrote them in the right order, but somehow it didn't resonate with me in sense. Because substance, I think of something that you could feel and see, like the physical body. And I don't know what form is. Form is, I think of a ghost in form, in picture, in spirit. So I got confused with those.
And I'm really happy that you're taking the time to kind of, and that's what this time here is for. For some of you, it may feel like it's just kind of, you know, we're not doing anything, but we really need time to process some of these ideas, especially if I'm presenting a new idea. I want to give that time to process it. So thank you, Cheryl, for kind of bringing up the ability to process some of these new ideas like Surah and Homer. Alessandra, I think you're the only one left. Oh, Julian. Alessandra, you have, oh, there you are.
When I was listening to Jill, my head said, I choose me. And I don't think it's on the animal soul level, you know, because pair of shoes, not a coffee, whatever, these are irrelevant. I think that we have to choose ourselves in terms of our path. and the path that we want to walk on. And I think it goes with the continuous soul that we've been talking about. So my instinct when Jill was talking was, I choose me.
Speaking of choosing me, we want to give a big mazel tov to Alessandra. We can't believe that you're here, who her daughter Naomi is going to be celebrating her bat mitzvah this weekend. Tomorrow night, she has a beautiful bat mitzvah for her daughter.
Wow, that's so tough.
Mazel tov.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And the fact that you're here is a very big deal for us. So thank you for being here, even amidst all of the chaos of your celebration. And I think that's a good example of what we're talking about, is making that choice even amidst the chaos.
The chaos has not started. I just have a meeting with someone from outside that I couldn't meet at any other time because of the future chaos. And I'm very excited. And I have a speech that I keep adapting that is very much based on this class. And I was thinking whether it is age appropriate to tell a 12-year-old, I choose me. In other words, you should choose yourself. Is it too early? Is it going to cost me? The I choose me.
It's a good question, because the whole idea of bat mitzvah is now the ability to discern and the ability to make choice. So maybe it's now that you have the ability to make the choice to choose yourself in an empathetic and non-selfish way. Whereas before your bat mitzvah, everything is very selfish. Now, so, you know, what I think your worry is you're going to say that to her, and then she's going to kind of spit it back at you whenever she wants to be selfish. But this is her ability to discern and to not be selfish, and to be able to be empathetic and caring about others and still choosing me.
So actually, I do touch on the free will in my speech. It's very short. Maybe after your Talmud class, Rabbi, I may call you
Sure.
to validate it with you, since I will be saying it in synagogue. But I do touch on, you know, we've given you values up until now, and now it's the time for you to evaluate whether our values fit your values, and you will have the free will to make choices and to choose for yourself, hopefully knowing that we're always here to support you, and so that's what I'm trying to say in my speech. And I've been wondering, am I going too far with a 12-year-old? Am I not going far enough? Could I go deeper? Should I just stay there so that also people that do not take these classes don't look at me like, oh, the crazy lady has come in synagogue today? So
These are really good questions to ask with no answers.
I know. I can answer those, but I will, if that's okay with you, I will call you. I would share it with the group, but it's in French. I don't know if anybody can read it in French. So,
Alessandra, it's Cheryl, and I think that you need to base it on where your daughter is, not on where the people that are going to be in synagogue listening to it. Where is your daughter's headspace, and will she really understand what you're saying?
oh, my daughter headspace is in not there. Absolutely not there. I will be having her say a speech because I've tried and it just flies over her head. So, but you know, I still have to tell her something that is more than I love you, be good. You know?
Good luck. Mazel tov. Yeah.
I will share with you some of the moments on the group, and Rabbi, I'll call you later. My meeting has arrived as well.
Sure. Well, Mazel Tov, and thank you for sharing this moment with us.
Thank you.
Julian.
Bye.
Thank you. So I've made my list of points. I haven't included the one I couldn't remember, and I haven't included the afterlife ones. So the first one is, do the 4 Kabbalistic worlds correspond to or give rise to the 4 souls?
Not directly connected.
Oh, that's interesting. Harder to understand. Okay, thank you. And the second one is, will we be covering the 4th soul as well as the 3 that we've done so far?
So let's just clarify that they're all, depending on which of the philosophies you go by, they are all one soul, essentially, just different levels. So we will cover all the levels of the soul, but not necessarily are they distinct, depending on who you follow in that line of thinking.
Oh, I'll have to go back over my notes then, but
Yeah.
I thought we'd started saying there were 4, but gone over 3, but I'll go back over my notes to clarify. Thank you.
Yeah.
So the third one is, how come the form does not die like the substance?
That's a
Because-
very good question. We're going to go over that, but that's a very good question. I don't even have a 30-second answer of why. I mean, I can give you a 30-second answer, but it's not going to suffice. So we're gonna have time to go over that.
Oh, that's good to come back to.
Yeah.
Because I thought that form is something physical. In other words, maybe you mean a spiritual form rather than a physical form.
Well,
Because
it'll be interesting for you to, as you process this and think about it, to think of form in different ways. And that form is not necessarily linear, but form may also be fluid.
oh, sort of like a DNA pattern. So
That's a great example. Great example.
Wow, thank you for clarifying that. And the 4th one is, there is a concept that Chokhmah and Binah are force and form. So I'm getting slightly,
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes, you're making connection. That's good connection. Absolutely.
So is substance the next Sephira after them, the one that they generate, like a Da'at, knowledge, or Chesed, loving kindness?
Maybe perhaps the unification of the two.
Yes. So the unification is the substance.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, we're going, you're really taking us a step deeper where I didn't want to go today, but yes.
Well, I appreciate you clarifying, because I was quite confused, because I
Yeah.
didn't know if it was my terminology was inappropriate.
No, it's
or if I
good.
did-
If you make connection, it's a great thing. Thank you. Fami, I think we'll end with you.
Sorry. So if you go back to what you said, like pig of the mud, like usually it's not one pig alone who do that. Usually, like there are a bunch of pigs who. And what's amazing is, like, if you study the book of Proverbs, right? It's exactly how it is. I mean, if you want to be, if you want to change your level, you have to surround yourself with people who reach that level. You know, it's exactly what the book of Proverbs says. If you want the chokhmah, you want to be with people who have chokhmah. If you want to stay in the mud, I mean, you just have, so it's your surrounding who will tell who you are. It's exactly what it is.
Exactly. Okay, thank you, everyone. This has been wonderful. We'll do this again next week, God be willing. Anyone who's staying for Talmud, we'll start Talmud in about 2 minutes.
Thank you, Rabbi. Have a
Thank
good
you.
week. Happy Simchas Torah to
Same to
everybody.
you, and feel better.
Happy
Thank
New Year,
you.
dear guy. Happy New Year.
Bye. Yeah, Happy New Year.
Hey, Fami, what